Welcome to the Emergency Traffic Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Emergency Traffic Podcast, where we talk about firefighter and paramedic line of duty deaths to learn from these tragic events and potentially prevent them from happening in the future. I'm Paul, and today I'm joined by my co-hosts Doug and Dirk. And how's it going, Doug and Dirk?
Yeah, hi Paul. I'm doing good. Like I just said before we started recording, I'm looking forward to heading down to Texas on Friday to teach at their annual industrial school. And as we record this, it's free agent frenzy day in the NHL, so I'm paying attention to what's going on there and who's signing where. And yeah, looking forward. Working tonight. I seem to always work tonight when we record these, but I'm gonna go to work and then off to Texas for some plus 40-degree weather next week.
Whew. Glad that's you. I don't know if I could handle that.
Yeah, you probably can't.
Probably not. Oh, ouch. No, I don't do well in the heat. How about you, Dirk? What's new?
Not much. Just got back. You guys can hear me? Yeah.
Yep.
Not much. Glad to be back. Went to Germany for 19 days or so. Traveling was a pain in the buttock. Like 22 hours to get there, 24 to come back. But I'm glad I did it by myself. Went to Interschutz. I think you guys mentioned that before. So if you guys are interested, we can do a little tailboard talk later on about that. And yeah, so lots of friends, family, lots of beer, lots of food. Gained like 12 pounds,
Oh no.
and
Yeah.
so then coming back right into teaching live fire and search and rescue. So that was fun. Yeah, excited about the podcast. Excited being back. So
Excellent. That's good. Yeah, that would be interesting, and definitely we'll have to do a tailboard. Maybe talk about, innovations that you saw and differences North America, Europe, and elsewhere around the world. I think that'd be interesting discussion, and you can bring us up to speed on that, whether it's apparatus or firefighting, that kind of stuff. That'd be great. Yeah, I've been camping a little bit here and there, and reading some books and playing some games. And yeah, we're heading out again next week, so we're squeezing in the podcast here for everybody for the August podcast episodes. The July episodes are doing well, and people are listening to them. So glad we can all be here to put this together. So, being August, I found some incidents that are related to wildland firefighting and apparatus incidents. So we have three short ones here. We'll probably do two together and then one other one. So the first incident we're going to talk about here happened in 2002 in South Dakota, and it was August 1st. A 48-year-old male volunteer firefighter was severely burned while fighting a wildland fire. The victim was spraying water from the back of a pickup truck that was equipped with a portable water tank and pump. He fell out of the truck bed and into the fire. He died 5 days later on August 6th from his burns. The volunteer fire department involved in the incident was one of numerous small departments with just like half a dozen volunteers within the county that serves a population of about 300 in a 50 square mile area. The state does not require any training for firefighters. Kind of like Alberta here, there's actually no official requirement for training that specifies what it is, just that you have to be trained. Anyway, does not require training for volunteer firefighters. The victim had about 20 years service as a volunteer firefighter, and he had completed an introduction to wildland introduction to wildland training level 1. The weather, the ambient air at the time of the incident was 78 Fahrenheit, relative humidity 19%, so pretty dry, and the winds were out of the northwest at 11 to 17 miles per hour. About 13:45 hours in the afternoon, a wildland fire consisting primarily of alfalfa and crusted wheat, so light fuels, flashy fuels we would call them, was reported by dispatch through the fire dispatch. The fire bar, which is a fire-related telephone system that simultaneously rings about 10 volunteer firefighter households in a particular area, fire area, when activated by dispatch. Used to have those when I first started on the fire department. The firefighters had what we called fire phones, and it was a phone in your house that it only rang when there was a fire call, and you would answer it, and everybody would get on. You'd wait for everybody to get on the line. You'd tell a fire party to hold until a few people got on so they could hear it before radios, and they would tell us where the fire was, and then you could ring the siren on top of the fire station with a button on the phone to activate the siren to notify people that weren't at home, obviously, that didn't hear the phone. And then later on, we got radios and we started answering the fire phone on the radio. And we had a dialer on the radio. You could make a numeric tone to activate the siren and to talk to other guys and stuff. So, yeah, so I remember that. In 2002, where I was in Dalmeny, Saskatchewan, they had fire phones probably till about 90 or yeah, somewhere in there, about 88, 90, they finally started getting radios. So still a system in some areas, I guess. Anyway, the fire was the third consecutive fire in several weeks in proximity to one another, and it was believed to have been started by a nearby landowner. That's often a problem with landowners and burning brush and stuff, and then it gets away on them maybe. I think there was a fire in New Mexico recently that was a controlled burn that ended up being a major wildfire. I don't know if you guys heard about it. No. Anyway, the fire quickly spread through the light fuels over the range area. The terrain was primarily flat with intermittent, gentle rolling hills. Although numerous firefighters responded to the incident, no incident command system or post was established. Radio communication was sparse between the firefighters. Therefore, as the firefighters arrived on the fire ground, they dispersed of their own accord to different areas to the nearly 800-acre site and began fire suppression. The victim, wearing tennis shoes, denim jeans, t-shirt, and a baseball cap, arrived on the fire ground near the head of the fire in his privately owned vehicle. He parked on the side of the road, and they awaited the arrival of other firefighters. Another firefighter heard the fire dispatch over his scanner and immediately secured the 1974 pickup truck that had been equipped with a portable 75-gallon water tank and a gasoline pump and drove toward the fire ground. He arrived also at the head of the fire, so that's a danger signal right away for a wildland fire, is that you're at the head of the fire, so you could be overrun. You want to beware not to get in front of it and provide potentially a flanking attack. Anyway, he arrived at the fire at about 2:15 hours. He saw the victim sitting in his personal vehicle on the side of the road. The victim and the firefighter talked and agreed that the victim would spray water from the back of the pickup truck while the firefighter drove the truck. The victim climbed into the bed of the truck, and the firefighter drove through the gate and into the field near the head of the encroaching fire. The firefighter backed the truck towards the encroaching fire. At least he's backing up, I guess, so he could take off and get ahead of it if he needed to. He stopped the vehicle, and the victim in the back began spraying water to suppress the fire. After only a couple minutes fire suppression, a gust of wind blew fire and smoke over the truck. The firefighter immediately pulled the truck forward and to the right. At this time, the victim fell from the truck and into the fire. It is unknown whether the victim fell from the truck as a result of being overcome by fire and smoke or from sudden forward movement of the truck. After pulling the truck into a safe area about 50 yards away, the firefighter looked back and saw the victim stand up and begin to run. The victim was moving in the same direction as the flame front, because they were at the head of the fire, toward the gate, into an area around the gate which was already engulfed in fire. The victim reportedly ran into the dry creek bed, but again was surrounded by heat, flames, and smoke. Eventually, the victim ran into a barbed wire fence and became entangled in the wire. About this time, other firefighters arrived on the scene and saw the victim entangled in the fence. One of the firefighters made a radio call, man down, which alerted other firefighters of the situation. One of the firefighters then called for a life flight helicopter. The helicopter arrived around 14:57 hours. Firefighters removed the victim from the fence to a safe area where he was then airlifted by helicopter to a nearby city hospital. The victim was transferred to a burn center in another state later that day, and he died 5 days later from his burn injuries. The coroner listed the victim's cause of death as second and third degree burns over 70% of his body. This falling off a truck thing, it still happens today, unfortunately. There's lots of debate in the fire service about riding externally on a truck. I was on some of the NFPA technical committees or working groups to talk about this. NFPA has approved sort of cages to restrain people in a truck. Doug, the fire department here in Lacombe, you and I were on, had, I don't know if you were here then, maybe, the old front mount bumper with little cages on the bump, no, little cages. It just had a railing on the front bumper and a couple of nozzles, and you'd ride on the front.
Way before my time.
Before your time? Was the county pump here when you were here, the old Chevy front
No.
mount? No.
Nope. I got there right after the tender got there. Tanker was the new truck.
Yeah, so I started here in 94, and they had a mid 80s or so Chevy front mount with an extended bumper and two little cages or little rails on the front bumper, and you'd stand up there with either a swivelly nozzle or a little short chunk of hose, and you'd ride in front of the truck. And yeah, very dangerous situation if the truck would hit a hole or something while it was moving, because you could pump and roll, and then that would try to throw you over the front bumper. There are still many departments operating this way in North America. Not as many as there used to be, but definitely some more. I know we tried to sell lots of departments the little remote control turrets in place of a firefighter standing there. They're not as user friendly, as responsive with the little joystick, and they're also very expensive. A remote control nozzle costs, I don't know, upwards of $10,000. So
Yeah, you were saying that it's very common in North America. It used to be common and still being done. I don't recall ever seeing that in Europe. Even not from the 70s. Like I started in the 90s, and we never done that. When we fought grass fires, wildland fires, we we had Unimogs, usually from the military, and they had pump and roll capabilities. And instead of spraying from a bumper, they had little manholes. It actually was a little room with door, so you went out the top,
in
kind
the
of like an
roof,
yeah, like the military. They would have a turret or something up there, a machine gun,
right,
and we just had the nozzle up there. So
right.
I've never seen anybody riding on the back or the front of a pumper ever. So that's something. Yeah, I've seen here for the first time, and I don't recall seeing it anywhere around here. So
Oh
not
yeah,
sure
it
if it's
used to
still
be
done.
extremely common in Western Canada. Not as common anymore. I should try to find. There was a picture on Facebook of somebody, a new truck, some private contractor, some pickups they built for Wildland, and I put a little criticism on there about their lack of compliance to standards, and I got an earful back saying we didn't have to follow standards. So but it's exactly the kind of thing that's a problem. I know some of the manufacturers and distributors are selling trucks where they build a little cage behind the cab, and the firefighter sits in there, and at least they're enclosed within the vehicle. Maybe a safety belt on or a chair sideways. Some manufacturers make it with a little seat, and you're strapped in so that if the truck was to roll or hit something, you can't get fall off and injured. So it's a problem, and of course, this is a very obviously underserviced area where funds are limited. I mean, look, this is 2002, and they're driving a 1974 pickup with a homemade tank and pump and stuff in the back. So, but it's a
2000,
risk.
2002 sounds so recently, but it's 20 years ago.
I
So
know, it throws me off. Tell me 1990 is 30 years ago, and I go, what?
that's our
Um,
advanced age, Paul. That's
I
that's what it
know,
feels like just yesterday.
I know. So anyway, yeah, the fire department's recommendations. Fire departments should establish, implement, and enforce procedures which include, but not limited to, combating ground-covered fires. The ability to pump and roll, of course, is tremendous advantage when working on a ground cover fire, vehicles with the ability to pump and roll use a separate motor or a power takeoff to power the pump. This arrangement enables the apparatus to be driven and discharge water at the same time. According to the International Fire Service Training Association, 2 methods are the proper ones for making a moving fire attack. 1, use a short section of hose. Firefighters walk alongside the apparatus to extinguish the fire as they go. The second is use nozzles that are remotely controlled from inside the cab. Procedures should be established, implemented, and enforced which prohibit firefighters from fighting fires while positioned on the inside bed of a pickup truck or other type of apparatus. A lot of guys would run the booster reel or a small line out the side window. And when I was in apparatus sales, that was a big time. Pump and roll, other than front mounts, really just started in the late 80s, early 90s with power takeoff pumps that were big enough. And then dealing with the pressure, if it was a power takeoff pump, because if you step on the gas in a soft spot or to go uphill, they end up too much pressure on the nozzle. Or separate engine pumps, which a lot of the big wildland fire departments will run separate engine pumps. In fact, there was a picture on internet the other day of a cross mount. We used to sell a lot of cross mount pumps where they had a V8 gas engine powering a fire pump behind the cab that was crossed, so it could pump no matter what gear the fire truck was in, stationary, driving forward or backwards, and that was really good. And then we would have turret nozzles or radio control or remote control nozzles. I used to find a lot of problems with firefighters operating the joysticks for the remote control nozzles, and the people that were familiar with using joysticks for computer games were much better at controlling the nozzles. I used to be a thing that was good. They also talked about the lack of command. There was no command structure. These guys just kind of assembled and went out and did their thing, which it's okay until there's an emergency. We all know that. I mean, they can go out and drive around the fire and put it out. It's all good until something bad happens, and then that command structure can really help in, which is why, level 1, 1001, level 1 requires a firefighter to have ICS 100, just so you understand what command is and how it works and some of the terms.
Well, I mean, I've been on calls, wildland calls, when I was where you are, and with some mutual aid. And I remember I was the officer on an engine for mutual aid call for a grass fire, and I arrived on scene. I said, "Command, we're on scene. What do you want us to do? Where do you want us to go?" And command said, "Well, I don't know. I'm in town filling up the truck with water, so just figure it out." So it's
nice.
Sure, I totally agree that there needs to be a better command structure. But the argument that some would make, I mean, there was 2 guys there. One came in his personal vehicle, and one came in the antique fire truck, and so they were their own command. I mean, there was nothing. I don't know if there was anybody else even on scene doing anything yet. So when you have such a limited manpower, like when there's only 2 of you, you can't have one guy go do everything and one guy stand on the road and say, "Well, I'm command, go do all the work." It's
right, and I mean, and that's normal that the first unit or 2 will, establish their own command. You do that every day,
yeah.
At a car accident or whatever, and run things until it gets more complex. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, it doesn't really say how many apparatus and equipment were working at the fire at the time, but definitely there was a few by the sounds of it. Yeah, SOPs.
I'm not sure that having somebody in command would have stopped this from happening. I think some better thinking about where you put your truck and where you ride on your truck would have prevented this from happening. But when you were reading what happened there, I kept thinking it's like the perfect example of we've always done it this way. We've never had an issue with it. What could possibly go wrong? We'll be fine. So they went. I'm sure it wasn't the first fire they rode in the back of that pickup truck and sprayed water. So it was and like we always talk about on these podcasts, that yeah, it worked 99 times, and this is the one that it didn't. and somebody died because of it. And that's why we have to learn from what happened and not chance it, that hoping it's the 99 times and not the one, because things can go wrong, and look what happened because of it. So that's why, I mean, lots of people in the fire service don't think that NFPA is good for anything, but when you can use an NFPA standard to tell your administration of your area, like, well, we need to spend the extra money to get the proper designed fire truck. This is why, because the other option is, well, just go get in the 25-year-old box pickup truck and go put the fire out, and nothing will happen. You'll be fine. Well, until you're not fine because something happens, right? So that's why
Yeah.
NFPA is there, and that's why it needs to be followed. I mean, I get that NFPA is not mandated. It's not law. It's complete recommendations, and I don't think there's a fire department in the world that follows every single one of them. But when it comes to stuff like safety of guys riding on trucks, I mean, I'm sure all of us would have loved, or would love now, to, especially when it's plus 35 out, you get a run. Let's ride the tailboard, boys. This would be fun to ride down the street waving at whoever's on the sidewalk, but we can't because guys fell off and got killed, or guys got rear-ended and got killed. So you need to
Sure.
sit in enclosed cabs, and yeah, I mean, there's no reason at a grass fire that you need to be in the back of a pickup truck driving around a field. I mean, it's a grass fire. I mean, like,
Sit in the cab and shoot
yeah.
out the window, right? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Dirk, did you have something you were going to say, or?
Yeah, I was just going to say about the instant command. I think again, it's one of those standardized recommendations that they make, because it wasn't established, at least not from the report. So they always going to criticize that it uh, wasn't handled well on the instant command level. But I don't think it would have prevented this from happening. As Doug said, proper procedures maybe on even with an old truck. Like if this firefighter would have used some travel restraint, fall protection, that might not have happened. I think they're going to talk about the PPE, because
Right.
I did not read that he changed into something more fire protective.
I mean,
Right.
the thing with command is it might have prevented them from being at the head of the fire alone, on their own, right? I mean, that's the you don't want to be there. What if something happens when you're there, right? Command might
True.
have
Yeah.
stopped that, but procedures and training would have stopped that as well, which is, we see that in so many of these podcasts, right?
But it
And
also,
yeah, then
you also said this guy had 20 years of experience on the volunteer fire department. So
he
I
knew what
mean,
he was doing.
if command would have prevented him from being where he was, he should have known better.
Right,
And
right,
like,
obvious.
they probably thought, well, let's get ahead of the fire, go with the fire, and the problem will go away. And it didn't, right? I mean, like I
Yeah,
say, they
yeah,
probably did it 1,000 times before. It sounds like it's a pretty rural area with a small fire department that probably deals. Their bread and butter is probably wildland fires, right? They probably do this
exactly. Yep,
routinely, right? Let's go do it again,
yep.
do it again, and this is just the one that something went wrong and bit them.
Yeah, no, and I mean the whole thing. Should the truck have been designed so it couldn't happen? Should SOPs have been in place so it couldn't happen? Should he have had proper PPEs? The next point, right? They didn't have Nomex pants or coveralls or anything like that. He was just wearing sneakers and jeans and a cotton shirt. Firefighters involved in wildland firefighting should be provided at minimum NFPA 1977 gear. Doug and I, we know a fellow that was burned at a wildland fire where the truck got stuck and he went to try to get it out, and he got burned. He was wearing station wear that was not NFPA 1977 compliant. It did well, for it was a cotton poly blend, which some jurisdictions, BC I believe, allows a cotton poly blend for a firefighting gear. Alberta, there's no real rule. The only one you could fall back on would be NFPA, and it's not only NFPA on trucks that gets me going either. It's even, is the truck overweight? There's been some social post going on about a little ladder truck a department bought, and I brought up NFPA, and also I wonder what it weighs, right? And right away there's a flashback. Well, it's a good solution for this little community. Well, if the truck's overweight and can't stop, it's not a good solution for the community. Who's checking that, right? That's why there's standards. Even though, like you say, Doug, no one meets all the standards. It's a guideline, and it's up to the chief to say, hey, we need to make sure our fire trucks are this, and we have this many guys, and our training is this.
Well, and
They
it's a homemade tank in the back of the truck. I'm sure it's not baffled properly. That's one of your big pet peeves.
Yep,
You were
absolutely.
all over my head. I could hear you in my head the other day. We had a not a fire truck, but a water truck rolled over on a road here in
Right,
the
right.
city. And I don't know the cause or whatever. The driver died. I don't know what caused it, but I heard that he swerved to avoid something and the truck rolled over and whatever. And I could just hear Paul Prevo in my brain saying, "Baffles, baffles, baffles. You need baffles." So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yep. And especially if it's a emergency vehicle, then you're going to be driving it, in extreme conditions, and that's going to lead into some of our next podcast here this morning. Talks about the standard wildfire orders developed by the National Wildfire Coordinating Group, such as aggressively but provide for safety first, have an exit, have a way out, initiate all actions based on current and expected fire behavior, recognize weather conditions and obtain forecasts, ensure as instructions are given and understood, uh, remain in communication with all crew members, your supervisor, and adjoining forces. Excuse me. Determine safe zones and escape routes. Establish lookouts for potentially hazard situations. Retain control, stay alert, keep calm, act decisively. So those are all good points that are pointed out, and evaluate the conditions. Were the conditions getting worse? A wind gust obviously came up that they didn't plan for. I had a fire. I don't know if you were with me on that fire where we had a bit of a thunderstorm come through the scene. It was a hay shed or something, and the wind shifted 180 degrees, and the guys were following the hose lines back through the farmyard to get to the apparatus because the wind shifted completely and visibility went to nothing, right? So you have to plan for that
I
stuff.
think
So
I think I was on one of the nozzles for that fire. I
you
think I
were
was one of the guys that ran back. Yeah,
the hay barn on one side and the manure pit on the other,
yeah, something
and
like
the
that.
wind,
Yeah.
the wind shifted, and then visibility went for nothing, and I'm going like, oh crap.
Well,
Yep,
and we had
command.
in one of the cities around me a couple of years ago. They had a wildland fire, and the wind kicked up, and it kind of created a fire tornado. And the news was on, or somebody with a cell phone. Surprise, surprise! Somebody was on scene, and they videoed the firefighter running into the lake to get away from it.
Right.
I think he got a little bit of burns, maybe, but yeah, he had to go run and jump in the water to save himself from the fire.
Right. Yeah. So that's good. These good things to think about and on this and not to do. It's 20 years ago, so hopefully things are better, but not necessarily.
It still sounds so weird that 2002 was 20 years ago.
I know you were probably out of school by then.
No, grade 11.
Almost. Okay. Well, we'll do another one right away here because this one's fairly short. So, um, the next one is a very similar incident. It happened in Texas, also in 2002 in August. So, same year, different state, and similar type of thing. This involved what's called as a brush breaker. I don't know if you've ever seen a brush breaker. So, a lot of departments will buy used military apparatus and convert them into brush trucks. They build a big cage around them and stuff for trees, and they'll mount a tank and pump and stuff like that. Which, of course, another pet peeve of mine is if you've significantly modified a vehicle in North America, it's supposed to go through a final manufacturer certification to make sure that it's safe. But the stability of the vehicle didn't have anything to do with this accident. It didn't roll over or anything. There's been a few of those that I always wonder. But in August 12th, 28-year-old male volunteer firefighter was fatally injured when he was ejected from a work platform on the front of a moving brush truck and was run over by the brush truck. he had 20. The fire department has about 20 active firefighters, serves a population of 4,000 in an area of about 8.5 square miles. 28-year-old victim had been a volunteer firefighter for 15 years, having served the fire department in some capacity since becoming a junior firefighter in his teens. During 2 months he was with this department. He was only with this department recently. He'd completed one training class, which were ladders. The department did not have a record of his previous completed formal training. There are no minimum state requirements for certification of volunteer firefighters in Texas. Wow. The weather was, it occurred along a rural road, paved road, 18 feet wide, no center line, posted speed limit of 55 miles per hour. The weather was clear and sunny, 95 degrees. August in Texas, Doug, you're going to be there soon. Was blowing 22 to 25 miles per hour, southeast to northwest. The equipment was a 1974 5-ton converted 6-wheel drive military cargo truck with a manual transmission and drum brakes. The truck had a 900-gallon square tank with 4 baffles and equipped with piping to a short hose line. The tank was manufactured in 2000 and it was 95 to 100% full at the time of the incident. The vehicle was 257 vehicle long, 96 inches wide, and the wheelbase was 85 inches. Anyway, the working platform was built by the fire department onto the front bumper of the brush truck, extended out about 36 inches or 3 feet. The platform had an open frame that extended up to the cab and then down the sides of the bumper. The lower front portion of the frame was mesh wire, which extended 39 inches from the top of the bumper to the cross member, so about waist high. On August 12th at 17 hours in the afternoon, the fire department was dispatched to a a residential grass fire between the hours of 4:30 and 4:35. The following personnel arrived: the assistant chief in a private vehicle, lieutenant and a firefighter in an engine, 2 firefighters in an engine, the victim and the driver of the brush truck. The assistant chief was first on scene, assumed command, called for traffic control, sized up the area, fire origin on the residential property. Fire was noted to have started in a pasture near a manure pile between the road and the state road and the rural road. Fire was spreading 300 feet long and was burning near the fence line, threatening to cross the rural road. The crews with the engines attacked the fire from the state road on the south side, where smoke had become thick and was blowing across the roadway, diminishing visibility. Deputy Sheriff had arrived on scene for traffic control at the west end. Traffic control on the east end was en route, but not there yet. The brush truck made a pass at the fire with a charged hose line from the west to east and then turned north, making a U-turn across the roadway, presumably to make another pass to extinguish the fire near the fence line. The witness stated he saw the driver of the brush truck reach the end of the fire line and make a U-turn across the roadway where the truck came almost to a halt. A pickup truck traveling westbound at 30 to 40 miles per hour passed through the heavy smoke towards the brush truck. It skidded 50 feet and impacted the right front tire of the brush truck. According to the state fire marshal's report, the driver of the brush truck was not wearing a seatbelt and upon impact was thrown across the interior, losing control of the vehicle. This impact also caused the victim to be ejected from the work platform to the ground directly in front of the rotating left front tire of the brush truck. His death certificate was being driven over by the brush truck. So the big thing they talked about here, of course, was firefighters should attack a brush fire from a safe place on the apparatus or walk alongside the moving apparatus. Charged hose line was attacking the fire in the front bumper working platform. There was a guardrail, open-sided at both ends. It was mounted on the front bumper, which is where the victim was working. According to IFSTA, there are 2 proper methods for a moving fire attack. We talked about this in the last episode, which was a walk alongside or be in a safe place inside. Strongly recommends 2 firefighters, each with a hose line, walk ahead and beside the vehicle's path, both firefighters on the same side of uninvolved terrain. This allows the firefighters to operate in an unhurried manner with a clear view of the fire. Of course, you get lots of big brush fires and it's 95 degrees out, you're going to want to ride. So buy a bumper turret. is what I say, or a hole in the roof, or they're out the window. Practice of riding firefighters on the outside of vehicles as unprotected positions is not recommended by NFPA. Adequate traffic control is in place before turning their attention to the emergency. So, as we see unbelievably how many times incidents getting driven through and firefighters getting struck by on roadways is a pandemic, if you will. In my opinion, it's so common using trucks to block it. Obviously, this didn't happen. The guy run into the truck and then they fell off the truck and were hurt.
You can't sit around and wait and just block the road without fighting the fire, though. I mean, the recommendation says block the road before you worry about the emergency. Well, I completely disagree with that. You have to worry about the emergency. Sure, there might be other trucks coming that can block the road, but if you're the only truck there or whatever, you need to just worry about the fire in mind of that the road's still open. You can't just pull up and block the road and say, well, we'll wait for the next truck, then start fighting the fire. Like, it's kind of a, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, maybe turning around in the middle of like in your lane would be reasonable, but I would say if you're in the oncoming lane or something, or stop turning around on an unclosed road in the smoke isn't really a safe
Yeah, that's
maneuver
not
either.
sure, but that's not what the
Yeah,
recommendation says. I'm reacting to the recommendation that says
yeah, I'm
close.
with you.
Don't worry about the emergency until the road's closed. Well, that's not possible all the time. I mean, even in a city at a house fire, you're worrying about something before the road's completely closed, right? Like, you got to worry about why you're there first.
So, according to the diagram in the report from NIOSH, the brush truck was crossways on the road performing a U-turn. So it was crossways in the lane of travel that the other vehicle hit it. So they were basically across the road in the smoke. So, I think until traffic control got there, I don't know. Training, experience, or command would have said, "Don't turn around in the smoke. Get out of the smoke before you turn around and
I
block."
mean,
Yes.
you're right. My point is that's not what the recommendation is saying.
Right. Yeah, and say close the
That's
road.
what I'm
So
reacting to is what the
yeah, I think
recommendation says.
better training or operating procedures experience maybe would have helped the people to not turn around in the smoke and close the road. Dirk?
Yeah, um, I was thinking like if that driver would have been buckled up and not throwing across and would have been still in control of the vehicle.
He might have been able to stop.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
in zero visibility churning, that's not good. We agree, but that's one of my pet peeves. It's, at the very least, the drivers have to be buckled up. They have
Yep.
to stay in control. And I taught drivers, and I said, if you cannot avoid impact, aim for the rear, aim for the right. I usually say think seniority because you want to take out the officer because he's usually senior to you, but which you usually gets the officer to buckle up as well.
Right.
But you want to stay in control, right? That's the
Right.
whole purpose of this exercise. Like, hey, if you know you can't avoid impact, get hit in the rear. You want to stay in control of the vehicle at all
Right.
times. And if again, what if? But if he would have been buckled up, stayed in control, he might not have run over that fella, right?
Yeah. I mean, losing control, he lost control of the vehicle. That's why I always specify or suggest to customers when they're buying a truck, I like the park brake in the center of the doghouse so the officer can reach the park brake. If the park brake is on the dash in the normal position by the driver's knee, then it's very difficult, if something happens, for the officer to stop the apparatus. But if it's in the center with a little guard over it so it isn't inadvertently pulled, the officer can do it. And actually on Vancouver Island in Oak Bay, which is a municipality near Victoria, the driver of the apparatus driving down the road had a medical emergency and the officer had to unbelt and reach across the doghouse to pull the park brake as they drove into a yard and into a house. So, I mean, taking significant risk to injury to himself, to stop the truck to save others. So, you're absolutely right. And if a seatbelt is going to keep you in control, great. Or other things like the park brake in the center can help as well. Dirk?
Isn't that a NFPA standard now? Because I noticed like
No.
the vehicles I've seen lately, they all have that air brake in the middle, the emergency brake.
Nope, that's a customer specified thing. Normally it's
Okay.
going to come near the driver. It just has to be within easy reach of the driver. And a
Right.
lot of people don't like it in the middle of the doghouse because it's sort of in the way. But personally, it's a recommendation I usually make. But yeah.
It just gets annoying when you have 75 pieces of apparatus and 20 of them have the thing by your knee and 20 of them have them over here and 20 of them have
Oh
them over
no.
there, and you
Oh
get in
no.
and you get in and you're like, well, how do I even move the truck, because I can't see there's a piece of paper over top of the air brake thing and you don't even know where it is to move, and you're like, oh, like,
What about the seatbelt,
yeah,
Doug? Like,
half
I'm
the trucks the
what
seatbelts on this side and
on the
half the
left?
trucks are on that
Yeah.
side, and you don't even.
And then be in my
Oh,
and then be in
you're
my
a
position. You're sitting.
firefighter.
Sometimes you're driving. Sometimes you're sitting in the other seat. Now it's backwards again. It's like,
Yeah, every
yeah, it's
time you
very
get in, you
annoying.
have
We
to remember,
can't buy
where's the stuff in
can't
this truck?
can't
Yeah.
buy anything new because it might be different, and you would have to familiarize yourself as your role of how to operate the equipment. So we only buy this truck and this ladder and this thing. What are you going to do when you buy a new Ford pickup, Doug? It'll be different.
That's not what I'm saying, Paul. I'm just saying
How do you drive your wife's car?
it takes a lot of, yeah, but in my wife's car, the gear shifts in the same place every time, and it's the brakes and the gas pedal and the seatbelt are in the same place every time. It's a mind fuck when you get in and
Oh,
you have to be like, okay, where is it in this truck?
Yeah.
all
First
right.
world, first world problems, but yeah, it can be
Anyway,
annoying.
It's easy.
anyway,
It's easy, Paul, when you're the chief and you're just on call, and all you have to do is roll over at 2 a.m. and say, "Oh, I'm on standby." Not when you have to get out and go get in the truck when you're half asleep and try to figure out how to get to the emergency.
all right. Good discussion. Good points, everybody. I think we've covered this well. Apparatus safety, seat belts, awareness of where you are, how you're and what your environment is, awareness of your lighting signature, even, and what the visibility, can people see you, right? So those are all good points to talk about. So thanks everybody for your participation. Another good episode. Thanks for listening, everyone. And
Stay
don't forget
safe.
to check us out. Yeah, be safe. Don't forget to check us out on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, and send us your comments. We'd love to hear feedback. Thanks.
Yep. See you later.